Yo, what's poppin', Shuffle Squad viewers? Today we are going to be going over the top 10 best Temporal Forces decks coming straight out of Japan. So this is our post-rotation format. Temporal Forces are in these decks. And before I get one more question like, yo, why is Ancient Box not on this list? Yo, what about this deck? These decks are all appropriately ranked based off of their placements at recent Japanese City Leagues tournaments through March 16th through March 18th. Now, by the time that you watch it, it might be a few days off from that, but I have to record and analyze them somehow, right? I'm currently coming back from Vancouver as this video is coming up, and I really hope that you enjoy all the time and effort that I put into it. Put your best guesses in the comments below, and let's jump into our number 10 pick. For our number 10 deck, we have Snorlax Control this week. It has not been seeing as much success as it was previously seeing in Japan, and that's cool. I mean, decks are going to see a varying amount of success, and it's still within the top 10, right? Snorlax is all about going to be bringing up one of your opponent's Pokemon that they don't want to see in the active spot, and continuously pass, playing a thing like Misfortune Sisters, Eerie ripping out of their hand. They will eventually deck out over time, so this is going to be a long game one kind of strategy, and if you don't take off, you might just tie in a best of 3 format. I believe these tournaments that Japan are playing are currently best of 1. Snorlax might be tough to play in best of 1, so it might actually be a little bit better in best of 3 when you have more time to reach that long game one game win. And then there's really just not enough time to complete game 2 is how most Snorlax games go. So it's usually a 1-0 victory. And you're just like, Snorlax pass, Snorlax pass, Snorlax pass. So we'll have to see if this deck gets a little bit better elsewhere in the world where we do have best of 3 formats. And it's not necessarily as rapid. All lists are available in the pinned comments. With PTCG Live now being out, you can copy and paste these lists right into PTCG Live. Some of the sets might be a little bit different, so be sure to play around with that to make sure that your deck is importing correctly, and check all of these. Feel free to take those screenshots, send them with your friends, and play them in some gameplay. Kind of surprising to you, boy, is Gardevoir bumping Great Tusk out of this list at number 9. Now, Great Tusk previously made the top 10, and I don't want to spoil any surprises, but Great Tusk got bumped out and Gardevoir is back in. A lot of us thought Gardevoir died because Gardevoir Chilling Reign got rotated, Battle VIP Pass got rotated, Level Ball got rotated, and here is a very similar list to what's seeing success in Japan, and we're using it more as a psychic toolbox between attacking with Screamtail, Mimikyu, Fluttermane, Drifloon. And we have a handful of tools that we can slap on these Pokemon to reach new heights of HP. The little Pokemon somehow seem to be winning, and that's pretty cool. We see some lists that also play Weird Deer V in Japan, similar to a Zacian V. You load up your energies on your Pokemon, bring it up active, and attack. Gardevoir might actually be better than we just think it is, and that might be the case for this deck. It's something that I think I'd want to talk to some Gardevoir experts. I know we got quite a few on Shuffle Squad, like Gem or Cal, and totally might want to like scratch their heads and be like, is Gardevoir as real as Japan's showing it to be? Because number 9, there's about 50 or so decks that I ranked this week, and like I said, there's another 40 or so that I have in my own personal Patreon Deathless Discord server. I don't know if I have decks for everyone, but I have decks for most of them. Really, Gardevoir being in the top 10 is a huge feat in this wide metagame. We'll see if it can continue to keep up. Right now, it's killing it at number 9. Really cool list here. Jumping into our number 8 pick, we have Arctina. Now, Arctina is a deck that has been around for a while, since basically it's come out, and it has not really seen a lot of success this past season. The reason why? Well, it just didn't really have a lot going for it. The big things that we get from Temporal Forces are going to be maximum builds, so now we have the option to knock out a Charizard EX, quite important because Charizard is one of the rulers of our new format, and of course we have Iron Leafs EX, so we can put it down, bust it into the active, and knock out one of our opponent's Pokemon, again, like a Charizard EX. This deck largely exists here because it is a disruptive deck that has quite a strong Charizard EX matchup, and it can hold its own versus quite a few other decks. I've been working on various lists of this deck, and this is my most updated. I mean, all these lists are personally created or heavily inspired by the Japanese City Leagues, and I've been putting a lot of effort into this format. I have about 30 plus decks built in this format. Been grinding away every single day, so hopefully you enjoy learning a little bit more about it. But right now, I think Arctina seems like it's a great choice going forward. Relatively consistent. I mean, every deck has their own demons. I don't know if I'd want to necessarily face like a Lugia deck with this one, but we'll have to see how it plays out. Arctina's looking mighty fine in this format. Let's see what we got going on with number 7. Slapping its way with that big hand into number 7 is Turbo Iron Hands EX. Now, Future Box itself is not seeing a lot of success in Japan, but this deck that plays Iron Crown and a handful of future Pokemon is really seeing a lot of success in Japan all the way to number 7. The goal of this deck is to use Miraidon to load up Iron Hands EX and really just use Ampy very much over and over. Iron Crown and both Future Booster Energy Capsule really lead this deck to doing a little bit more damage than it normally would by giving you options to go 20, 20, 20, 20, a bunch of extra damage for that attack, and maybe you'll even knock out something particularly special. Iron Boulder EX gives you options to have different type against a fighting weak Pokemon, or just being able to pummel back some damage with that first attack. Also, the Psychic Energy leaves you an opportunity to attack with Iron Crown EX, or you could even use Miraidon against a control deck to load up energies on Miraidon and just attack with Mono Miraidon. This deck seems pretty cool, and it's seeing a lot of success in Japan. A lot of decks don't necessarily want to face Iron Hands EX, especially with Lugia flying high once again. We'll have to see how this deck plays out in this metagame, but it's very exciting, and it should be pretty consistent when it comes down to it. That being said, if you haven't already given this video a like, be sure to do that. It helps out with our YouTube algorithm. And also, see if you've subscribed to the channel. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. About 50% of viewers do not subscribe to their favorite YouTube channels. I'm one of those people where it's like I'm watching TikTok, YouTube, and I'm like, hey, have I not subscribed? I actually haven't. So double check. We are so close to 20K subs. Help us scrape up those last few subs and get there. Let's see what we got going on in our number 6 pick. Facing a huge drop-off this week, Charizard Bibarel went from number 2 last week all the way to number 6 this week. Now, it's really one of those things where I think a lot of players are playing other builds of Charizard, and I don't necessarily want to give it away, but I do think that Charizard is quite well positioned in this format, and we'll have to see how it plays out. That being said, I personally like this build more than other Charizard builds, because I'm offering up less prize cards with Bibarel than I am with Pidgeot. And I think I like the build of how we're just like crypto Cypher Maniacs, code breaking, putting cards on top, and drawing whatever we want. And I feel like this deck flows better. I like Prime Catcher as an A spec, and this build runs it a little bit better. And it's been working incredibly well. I think Charizard is just a powerful deck in this format, regardless if it's well positioned or not well positioned or anything else like that. This is going to be a big deck in the format, and getting all the way to number 6 is quite a huge feat regardless, especially considering there might be another variant in the top 5. We'll have to see what it is, but put your best guesses in the comments below. Charizard's always been powerful. Charizard's always been countered. Charizard's still seeing success. And it's because it has the most answers. The deck really didn't lose much out of rotation, so we'll have to see how it plays out. But I think Charizard Bibarel might end up fading out of the format a little bit as players favor other versions of the deck. We'll have to see by the time EUIC and Orlando roll around on what everyone's considering playing. Right in the middle of our list, again having a little bit of a steep drop, is chien-pao Baxcalibur. Now, this deck, it might just be having a bit of a drop as players explore other various deck lists. There's a lot to explore in this format. And I mean, if I was playing in Japan, I'd probably be playing with Raging Bolt, because that's the deck that has, it has my heart. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where, why would I play chien-pao in a tournament when I know how chien-pao plays out? Why would I not play Great Tusk Mill? Why would I not play Raging Bolt? Why would I not play Baby Roaring Moon with Koraidon or an Ancient Box deck? You know what I'm saying? Like, these are really the decks that kind of have my thoughts and my heart, and I'm thinking about them all the time. To me, this looks like we've added in 2 cards to an otherwise standard chien-pao list, and we've replaced Battle VIP Pass with Buddy Poffin. Cypher Maniacs code breaking has a great home here because we could draw cards with Radiant Greninja, we could draw cards with Bibarel, we have access to Prime Catcher now, and I think this deck is just like, this list looks relatively perfect if you ask me. We need to be able to get out our Bibarel to draw cards, we need to get out of our Baxcalibur to accelerate energies, and we have enough chien-paos to make things happen. Could I see us cutting a chien-pao? Sure, maybe that's the last cuttable card, but I think everything else in this list is at a perfect count at the very least. We'll have to see if chien-pao is still strong enough at taking down those Charizard decks. However, some Charizard lists are running Lost City, so you got to watch out for that low backs count. Maybe it's something that we want to change in the future as the metagame morphs around. But right now, this deck seems incredibly powerful. And number 5 seems a little too low if you have to ask me. But we're about to enter into the top 4. These are some defined great decks from Japan. So any of your best guesses in the comments below. We do get back to everything. We'll see how it goes. Lost Tina breezing its way into number 4. And I think we've seen some slight changes to Lost Tina here. I mean, we've lost Path to the Peak, but we have a Temple of Sinnoh just in case our opponent plays Mist Energy, and we can now use Star Requiem. You might have noticed a pattern here for the past few decks, and maybe a few more decks on this list. Things like Iron Leafs are very good, and things like Buddy Poffin are very good, and Prime Catcher is very good. So what if you take a previously existing really good deck that didn't lose much, and add in a couple good cards from the new formats, and follow the same structure that we have from regional, international, world's winning lists? Ta-da! We have our new formats. The best decks typically are not going to be the Great Tusk Mail that just came out, because we haven't discovered that. Ancient Box is still in a process of players testing and meticulously cutting cards here or there. If you get it right, maybe I'll have a deep run at EU, IC, or Orlando. Right now, Tina V-Star is like, we have it figured out. It was literally one of the top 3 best decks in format, and we're pretty close to that at this current stage in the game. We didn't really lose much. We're pretty much playing the exact same core, and we're still trying to hit Lost Impact, Star Requiem, spreading damage around damage counters with Sableye, hitting that turn 1 Cram, and disrupting you with Roxanne. These decks are still incredibly powerful, so if you haven't already picked them up, now would be a great time to pick them up. All of our sponsors should have these cards, or you could craft them online after picking up some PTCGL codes. So pick it up. I think Lost Tina seems like it's still incredibly powerful, not really losing much, and it's very much the same deck. So if you've been playing this deck for a while, it might be good to transition into the new format with the deck that you've already been playing. That's a really good way to have a smooth play, but always keep your mind open. Like I said, I have 30 decks built. It's not like I'm always playing Lost Tina because I know what I'm doing with this deck. I'm always exploring these new decks, and a lot of those decks are the decks that I've been cooking on my Discord server. Breezing into number 3, and still quite high up on this list, is Lugia V-Star. Now, this is one of the only decks that I feel like it's not necessarily as new as other decks, or it is new. It's both. Like, it's Lugia was not seeing success for since Paradox Rift came out. It went from Lugia Single Strike and Lugia Colorless seeing success in that original format where we had Pokemon 151. Paradox Rift came out and it said, nah, Iron Hands exists, we're not playing this anymore. And now we grabbed Chinchino, and Chinchino could do 70 times the amount of special energies, and this deck has some new life into it. I've seen various builds of this deck, some playing Double Luminion, some playing a Mew EX, some playing a Squawkabilly. I really like how this list looks on paper because I have enough answers to really discard Archeops, and it works consistently when it works consistently. Lugia seems like it's like the Charizard Bibarel, where it's not necessarily the most well-positioned deck in this format, but every one of these not so well-positioned decks does have its suite of strong matchups, and whereas Charizard I find has a slightly favorable matchup into the Lugia, I find that Lugia has a slightly favorable matchup into the decks that beat Charizard. So I think you're really one of those formats where if you pick a deck, you kind of have to roll with it because you are going to have some tough matchups either way, no matter which way you play it down. So right now, I think Lugia seems great. It's great to pull these cards from the back of the shoe bin, the back of the binder, whatever you want to, wherever you've been storing these cards, and breathing some new life into this deck with the new Chinchino. And I do have to give a shout out to the new Chinchino from Temporal Forces, like the illustration rare. Dom, if you're watching this, grab that thing. Dom's our editor, so put it up. I like how it has kind of like the Louis Vuitton looking diamonds in the background. I think that card's absolutely gorgeous. So if that's an excuse to run this deck, there's a lot of really cool bling cards for it. Definitely a cool one to check out. I picked up a few from my local game store, so check it out. I think this deck's sick, and we'll see what's in our top 2 decks real soon. Surprisingly to me, we have Lost Zone Toolbox making it all the way to our number 2 position here. I wasn't necessarily expecting Lost Zone Box to reach this high, but it seemingly seems that it has some answers to our currently our current metagame, and that's really it. Like, we have Roaring Moon that could OHKO anything, Iron Hands could draw extra prize cards, and it's lightning type. And of course, we get to play my favorite card in a long time, Hoopa EX. Now, Hoopa EX is a card that I've been like thinking about for a while, and I'm like, this card looks so cool. It's a fighting type Pokemon that takes dark energies, and it brings me back to like my childhood Pokemon plays where I had a Surfing Pikachu, one of the OG Surfing Pikachus, in my water type deck because it took water energies. I think that's why I'm fascinated by these cards. Regardless, we need to have an answer to Iron Hands and Arceus, as both of those decks are on the rise. We have things like Ditto that you could use Buddy Poffin on your first turn, grab out Ditto, and transform Ditto in the active spot to a Cramorant or a Comfey, or making anything consistent. We have Iron Bundle to get Fluttermane out of the active, or just kind of half escape rope our opponent's Pokemon. This deck seems incredibly well constructed, incredibly well positioned in our format. So you want to know what? I think it's worthwhile to give it a try, see exactly what we got going on with Lost Zone Toolbox. A lot of really cool lists are coming out of this format. And I mean, any deck that plays Hoopa EX is good in my book. I think that's really where I'm like, I like Hoopa EX a lot. And it's nothing that deep. I just think it's always been a cool card, and I'm happy that it finally has its day to shine. Some lists are replacing it with Raikou, and they're having a Forest Seal Stone. I don't know how you're going to find that necessarily out of the deck, but we'll have to see how it plays out. But right now, Lost Zone Toolbox looking very good, and Lost Zone box decks in general looking really good. But the big question is, what is our number one deck? I'm sure a lot of y'all can probably already guess it, but if you haven't already guessed it, or if you are going to guess it, be sure to let us know in the comments so I can be like, you got it right, or be like, what the heck? Why did you say that? We get back to all comments, so let's see what we got going on for our number one pick. Here you have it, Charizard Pidgeot. Now, Charizard Pidgeot has been seeing a lot of success in Japan, like 3 times as much as our number 2 deck, give or take. I have the numbers somewhere, but it was like an outstanding amount of success. I think this is just the default consistent build of the formats. Maximum Belt adds something to the deck that we didn't have before, plus 50 against EXs. And you have Defiance Band if you ever need to do plus 30 if you're behind. I feel like this deck has enough answers to kind of deal with the metagame right now, has enough tech cards to deal with the metagame, and I really like how it's constructed. Like, I cannot really change a card from this deck right now because we just want to get set up, get everything going, and we are good to go. Like, having 4 Nest Ball, 4 Ultra, 4 Buddy Poffin, like, we are ready to get set up when it comes down to it. Jet Energy is cool, so you can have a non-irritable way to get around Snorlax block. Like, I mean, it might be a little bit cope that we think that we're going to be beating Snorlax or anything, but I feel like we have some light answers against everything. And I like Lost City against a lot of decks that have one-of techs right now. As we just saw, that Lost Zone box deck is literally a bunch of one-ofs, so Lost City is a hot tech in this deck. Charizard quite often has a way to prevail over the competition, so we'll have to see how it plays out. But right now, I think Charizard EX, absolutely a sick deck, and like the most successful deck in Japan right now. The rest of the world is going to have to show us up at EUIC, and I'm probably going to have another one of these videos the week of EUIC that's going to show the best decks, so stay tuned for that. But right now, Charizard is probably the deck to build. Pick up all the cards for Charizard if you don't have them already. Luckily, Charizard just got reprinted in Paldean Fates, and it dropped the card from being about $20 to I think about $5. That's a sick deal if I've ever seen one, so check it out. Let me close things out for this video and say my final thoughts. And there we have it. Charizard is on top, flying high, well higher than any other deck by far on this list. It almost had 3 times as much ranking and success as the second best deck. Now, one thing I want to note, I don't think Charizard is the best position deck, and I might have gone over that a little bit before or anything else like that, but it is very strong once it sets up. When I say it's not well positioned, people typically want to like grab the deck at the top and beat it down, and counter it and etc. So we might see some Iron Leafs being put into decks. We might see some Technical Machine de-evolute. You know what I'm saying? Like, people are trying to come after Charizard. That being said, Charizard is still a fantastic deck heading into EUIC or whatever your next event is. I put a lot of time and effort into this video, and there are just more than 10 decks that I featured. So check out my Patreon at patreon.com/Zach Lesage. That totally would get access to all my deck lists. You could also support the Shuffle Squad Patreon at patreon.com/TSSWin for all of our articles and some Japanese deck lists there as well. If you need any of the cards for these decks, we have our sponsors Kayfabe, Atlas, and we have PTCGL Store. And if you need to protect any of these decks, we have Ultimate Guard. Really hope that you all enjoy watching these, and we will catch up with all y'all soon. Peace out and have a great one. Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this entire video from the Shuffle Squad. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every person that supports our content, watches what we have going on every single day, every single week, even from time to time, and continuously allows us to have a forum to project our creative content towards the Pokemon TCG community. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. That being said, we'll catch you with our next video. Thanks again. Take it easy.